those.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
I'm curious about so we've talked to a soul pastor. We've talked to a couple of soul pastors. I'm an associate pastor, so I've been sprinkling in some things about being an associate pastor. You're the first senior pastor, or I guess you call you're a lead pastor there
Sure.
at St. John's in Decatur. I'm curious about the dynamics and the role of a senior pastor, a lead pastor, in this time. So if you would just give us an idea of the staff that
Mhm.
that you're a part of there, and how you've understood your role as senior pastor, lead pastor in this past year.
Sure. Yeah. So our staff dynamic in terms of ministry staff, we have me, and
Mhm.
then we have an associate pastor,
Okay.
and we have a DC, a director of Christian education, and so those are our three called staff
Mhm.
members. Then we also have other staff. We have a worship team and choir director.
Mhm.
We have a full-time secretary on staff. We have a part-time financial secretary, and we
Mhm.
have a custodian.
Okay.
And so, in terms of the called staff, the biggest challenge for us was that, so back in, I think it would have been going into 2018, is when we had just gotten really moving with getting an associate pastor.
Mhm.
Because when I moved into the lead senior role, I went for a year by myself, which
Oh,
wasn't the plan, but that's how it came. It's
Sure.
just one of those things. So I went for a year by myself, and then we got our associate pastor, Pastor John, and
Mhm.
then we also got our DCE at the same time. And
Okay.
so we have a very fresh dynamic in terms
Yeah.
of just our ministry team, and we're all younger.
Mhm.
I'm 33,
Mhm.
and we're all 33 or younger,
Yeah.
and so a younger staff, and really still working on building that dynamic and that relationship.
Mm.
And I really felt like one of the things that's been hardest for us is that we were just really getting, I think, in a groove in
Mm.
terms of getting to know each other, and
Uh-huh.
really getting on board with vision and plan and all that kind of
Yeah.
thing. And then this all happened. And
Okay.
so we have really felt like, not only, a lot of people say, well, we have to revisit issues. Yes, that's
Mhm.
true. But I think even more than that, we've been feeling like we have to sort of just restart
Mm.
in a lot of ways.
Uh-huh.
A lot of things we were trying to do and trying to move forward with, it's not just revisiting those things, it's really restarting them, because we had turnover along the way in some leadership. We've had
Mhm.
families that dynamics have changed. They move
Yeah.
from one category to another and all those things. And
Yeah.
so I think that's been a challenge for our staff, to just feel like we were really getting some momentum, and then to just have it like run into a brick wall.
Sure.
And so I think in my role especially, it's been trying to sort of that idea of lead pastor. So how do I lead the staff through
Mm.
this?
Mhm.
I think a lot of the things we've been thinking about is, what can we do in the midst of
Oh.
this?
Mhm.
Especially here in Illinois, it has been one of the tighter restricted
Sure.
states.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people think about the situation and the problems with, what can we not do? What are we told we can't do?
Mhm.
And so trying to sort of reframe our ministry mindset to say, what can we do?
Mm.
And so what can we do, and then can we do it well? That's the other
Okay.
piece.
Yeah.
We're even shorter on resources and
Mhm.
things like that than normal. You can't plug into the same people you normally would.
Right.
And so, can we do it well? And so, I think at one point I remember talking with my DCE, Melinda is her
Mhm.
name, and that's been such a struggle for youth ministry people, that
Mhm.
I just, oh man, my heart goes out to people within youth ministry, because so much of what they do is relational
Yeah.
and activity based, and getting people together.
Right.
And so they have just been so hard pressed to keep something going. And
Mhm.
so, but I remember talking with Melinda at one point. This is probably back in the summer of 2020, where I just said, Melinda, in a lot of ways, it might not feel right that we're not doing so many
Mhm.
things, but we just have to do what we can. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what it comes down to, is
Yeah.
there's so many things we're not able to do, and that's hard, and that's
Mhm.
frustrating, and it almost makes you feel like you're not doing your job.
Right.
But we have to just focus on what we can do,
Mhm.
and it's just, that's been a challenge. And I think
Yeah.
that's been difficult for people within ministry to sort of wrestle with that dynamic.
Sure.
So,
What are some of those things that you've come down to be able to say, we can do this and do it well. We can do this and do it well. We can, and I don't
Yeah.
expect the list is going to be terribly long.
Right.
But what are some of those things that St. John's is getting back into?
Well, yeah, getting back into, I mean, so we were on back when it all started in March. I think it was March 15th. That was, I think, the first Sunday we went live stream only.
Oh, okay.
And at that point, it was literally my iPhone set
Oh,
up on a, set it up on a little podium that we
Yep.
had and propped it up with a hymnal.
Okay.
and went for it,
Yeah.
and thankfully we already had a Facebook page and things like that to go live on, but that's all we had. We didn't have live streaming stuff before that. It was something that was on our vision. It was on our goals to get that moving. And then this happened before we even got it close. So we start off, we're live streaming through an iPhone, and then so we started to obviously move forward with getting different equipment and all that fun stuff. But it wasn't until June that we resumed in-person worship in some capacity. Okay. And so we went several weeks without any in-person worship. And so that was exceptionally challenging to not have that opportunity. And that, during that time, we were really trying to focus on just how do we still provide quality worship opportunity for people, even though we're only online. And that was brand new for us to think about. We never had to think about that before. So, and it, that had everything from sound issues to the picture quality to what the music, how do we do music well? I mean, and it was just such a, every week there was something new to figure out.
Sure.
And so that was sort of that early focus, was just providing a quality worship, even though we're only online. And once we started to get through that and we were back in person, then a lot of the focus was how do we do both? So, because we had just gotten into more of a groove for online, and now we had to figure out how to do both things. And so that was a new challenge, and throughout that, we were still not having Bible study. We were still not having youth group activities and things like that. So our Christian Ed, group and our DC, they were working on how do we provide quality interaction with those families still. What can we do? Can we bring things to their home and leave it on their doorstep? Things for them to participate in. Can we go and do set up an Easter egg hunt in our youth families' yards, and so give them some kind of connection? What kind of devotionals can we do on a weekly basis? And just thinking through all those ways to still be connected. And then once you start back up with in-person worship, but in a limited way, now you have just an added dynamic of those people that are there, and how do we minister to them well, and what do we offer them that are there, while still trying to offer quality things and different things for those that aren't there. And and so obviously that it was very trying, and it still is trying to sort of work through how to offer quality opportunities for all people. And I think our main focus has been, how can we what can we do to stay connected? How can we keep our people feeling connected, even when for so long we were told we had to isolate? So and so just constantly thinking through that kind of question, which, no, we haven't done things perfectly. We've dropped the ball on several things. I'm sure a lot of things that, looking back now, we were like, well, we could have done that, but we didn't. But that's just unfortunately sort of the way it goes.
Now, with that in mind, that there were things you could have done better, things you dropped the ball on.
Sure.
React to this. I've been thinking about and saying at different times in different places that there probably wasn't a right or a wrong answer, but there was definitely a wrong way to go about it. What do you think about that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think I would agree initially, in terms of certainly this was a very unique time for not just the church, but our world. And so, this whole right or wrong thing has been very polarizing. And unfortunately, I think one of the challenges that the church has faced is just how divisive it's become, in terms of just the way we have felt sort of pitted against each other and pushed into different categories and things like that. And So, in terms of right or wrong, there's for the church in a lot of ways, there wasn't necessarily a right or wrong as we tried to navigate what we could do in what we could offer. But
Mhm.
yeah, there's certainly wrong ways to go about it. And I think what hopefully, and from the churches I'm connected to and the people I talk to, I think every church has just been trying to focus on, how do we continue to proclaim the gospel, right? Number one. But how do we continue to just minister to and support our people? And so there's no right or wrong in that necessarily. If you're asking that right question, I think that's the right question to be asking. How do we minister to our people? How do we support our people?
Mhm.
And then you just gotta, you sort of gotta brainstorm, and you sort of have to pick some things and go for it. And in a lot of it throughout this kind of situation, it really is trial and error. We did some things that we thought were great ideas that we either didn't get much input or impact from, or then there was things that we thought, well, we'll try it, but it probably isn't going to really make a difference, and people loved it. So it just
Can you give examples of those? What was something you thought would be good that wasn't, and something you were like, oh wow, this turned out better than we thought, or was received better than we thought?
Yeah, one thing that comes to mind is earlier on in this pandemic, we had come up with a survey for our congregation that we sent out, and put a lot of thought into that. And my DC was a big part of that too, of just trying to put out a survey to our congregation to say, what are your needs? How can we support you? How can we help? And then also asking, are there things that you're looking to do to help others, right? And we thought this would be a great way to better understand what our people need and how to help meet that need if we can. And we really didn't get a lot of feedback at all. For the most part, people said, we're doing fine. And it was more so they were looking at how they can help others, not that they needed anything necessarily from the church. And so it sort of reversed our I guess, our approach and what we expected. And then we had people that said they were willing to do things that we didn't have anything for them to do. And so that was a little interesting. And then, something that we probably didn't expect much from, but, went very well, is like just little things. Like one time we did a sit down with me and my associate in the DCE, and we just did a time of like Q&A with us, very informal, very random, hey, get to know us better or whatever. And people loved it. And it was very, very engaging. And it was something that we didn't really have to put a lot of thought into, and we thought it would just be like, hey, maybe they'll like this. And people really liked it, so it's those kind of things that you're never quite sure what's going to come from it. But I think, again, it comes back to just, you got to try it. You got to go, come up with a plan and go for it. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, so.
Now I want to take, I appreciate that I appreciate you sharing things, something that didn't work and something that you kind of just threw together that was very well received.
Sure.